In this episode of Man vs. Marriage, listener email, the game plan, title of the show, how do I get through to her?
The podcast.
How good do you want your life to be?
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible.
This is Man vs. Marriage.
The podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. It is I, Quincy W. Moran, a.k.a. the Q Dog, in the Moran family studio with my lovely wife, Jeannie Moran.
Hi, baby.
Hello, love. And we are going to do a quick, fast, and in a hurry episode for this game plan when it comes to a Jack and Jill listener email that we received from one of our listeners, and what an impression it made on me. And first of all, when you send emails, I myself personally, I'm going to praise you for having the courage to reach out. That tells me something initially about you. Not necessarily that you're on the right track, but you are looking for the right track. Now, two kinds of guys. They email, they already know what they want to know, they already know the answer, so they're emailing me in hopes to have me echo or justify why they're right. And that's not always going to be the case. Number two, it's a guy that knows there's an issue, doesn't necessarily know how to pinpoint it, or maybe has pinpointed it and needs some type of reflection, needs a sounding board. And that's how we operate. We give you two email addresses so that you can email us directly if you need to keep it on the hush-hush down low, away from anybody else. Like saying if you're a lady and you don't feel like talking to me, Q-Dog, you can email Jeannie. But feel free to email either one of us. And here's the thing about this particular episode. We're going to help you extrapolate the keys that will help make a successful playbook coming up next. So, with that email, we get the email. He tells us where he's at, what is going on, and that he needs some type of direction. So, in my opinion, the first thing you have to do is identify what matters to your wife. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So in this case, I say you need to identify the things that make her feel that she is, and I go down the line for what makes my wife feel A, B, C, D, because that's my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, do you know hers? Have you asked her? And then from there, we can get this dialogue moving in the right direction. So my suggestion was, do you know what makes her feel like a priority? Do you know what makes her feel like she's being heard? Do you know what makes her feel like her needs are being met? Like she feels appreciated, she feels loved, she feels safe. Do you know those things? Those are some of my wife's top priorities, unless I got it wrong.
No, you're right. I was going to say they're not all the same for everybody else, but those are mine.
So with that, you're going to ask a question. This is the you part, bro. You're going to ask a question. What makes you feel like you matter? Like you're my priority. What is that? And this is an example, of course. And then she's going to say, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to say, okay, what does that look like? And then that will give her an opportunity to explain exactly what it is that she is needing so that she feels like she is a priority, or in her case, whatever her number one thing is. And then once you get the idea, or she says, what that looks like, you can then take that information and say, okay, what I hear you saying to me is this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And she says, no, that's not what I'm saying. Or she says, yes, that is fantastic. And then from there, you can move on. And, the whole premise here is that you want to change. You want to understand what makes her tick, what makes her feel like she is loved. Now, I'll open the floor to Jeannie so that she can give any kind of other information she wants. Maybe we can just round this out and finalize the episode, and there's no real need for a playbook episode. There's always going to be a need for a cough button thanks to you, honey. But
you can slurp your coffee and smack your gum in the microphone. You can deal with my coughing. Plus, I just ate, so that's not fair. And here he goes, gulping the water. Sorry, Ashley, for your ears.
I am fighting against you with the water. Okay, so where do you stand on that?
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, asking them what their needs are is the premise of everything, because if you don't know what the need is, you don't know how to meet it. We also had him use the love language, which he pulled that out himself.
Correct.
Which I thought was pretty impressive. And he has a point. Your love languages do change. I know a lot of people would argue with us and say, no, they never change. This is ingrained in you. This is who you are. But that's not necessarily true, because Quincy and I have tested this, and life has put us in positions where the language has changed and the needs changed because we were no longer able to meet our first priority need in our love language due to medical conditions. So for us, it shifted a little bit. So I would suggest, if you have done it before, maybe revisit it. Take a look at it and see, maybe something has changed. Maybe when you took it last time, words of affirmation was down on the bottom, but if life's been kicking you in the nuts, words of affirmation might be needed right now.
Let me give you a word of caution, okay? My question to Jack in this scenario was, what 3 things does your wife need to make her feel like she's a priority and that she matters?
Mm-hmm.
When you're in survival mode, I'm not saying that's where you are. I'm taking our experience.
Yeah.
When you're in survival mode, you may have a hard time coming up with
what do you need?
What you need, because you are so focused on the needs, like putting out the fires like we discussed. So here's the deal. Maybe she can't figure out 3. Heck, bro, maybe you can't figure out those things that you need to feel like you matter. So if you have to, take it slow. Ask for what's one thing you need. Your relationship is unique. So start small and work your way up.
We had to do that in the beginning because one of the things that we changed was I always get the first kiss. That's always been our thing since the kids were little bitty. I always got the first kiss. It was like a game with the kids to see who could get daddy to break his rule and give them the first kiss. But he did change. Rather than just coming in and giving me the first kiss, he'll come in and hold me for a minute, or, while I'm cooking at the stove, or come in and give me a hug, or just hang around and give me some form of touch. And sometimes it's just a pat on the ass. It just depends on the two of us and what's going on that day. But if touch is one of her languages and things are just kind of hairy right now, or you're in survival mode, I would ramp up touch. Not to the point where you're groping her and whatnot, but just subtle, affectionate, secure things that make her feel like you're there. I'm not by myself. There is someone here with me. And if it's you, that's even better. You get what I'm saying? It's more, for me, I always felt alone. When we were going through stuff, I always felt alone because I didn't have anybody to talk to. And we were both going through it at the same time, so we didn't talk.
Yeah.
You didn't want to dump your stuff on me. I didn't want to dump my stuff on you. But just that simple connection of a hug or cuddling on the couch or putting your hand around me, those different things helped me to realize that I wasn't by myself.
And depending on the degree of where y'all are at in your relationship, if I go to worst case scenario here, let's say, you know, like Jack, you make the reference to, and then you decide to go for love languages, and maybe physical touch is high on her priority list. But if y'all are in survival mode, depending on her temperament, you may want to say,
that's subtle.
you may want to, can I give you a hug? Would you like a hug? You know, would you like me to rub your back? Those kind of things, just as peace offerings in order to open her heart up to you a little bit, because you are speaking her love language through physical touch. Now, if you're confused or you're like, you got a case of the yabbits, go ahead and email us. And then we can kind of take your situation and try to give you some feedback in order to help you.
There's another way to approach it too, because like Jack said, acts of service was big on his wife's list. But his idea of acts of service, although in good intention, was not helping her. It was hindering. It was hurtful for her. Now, that's no fault of his own. He was honestly trying to do something nice.
Yeah.
And really was trying to give her something that would help her. If you're in survival mode, like Quincy said, it would probably be best to approach this as, can I do this for you? Would you like me to help with this? Throw it out there before you just go in and take something over, because you don't know where her headspace is if you're really going through something, and it would probably diffuse anything that could come back and bite you. To simply throw out, would this help you if I did this? You know, would you like me to do this for you? Is there something that you need done that I could be a help with? Try and approach it from that perspective. And I know it kind of sounds like you're walking on eggshells, and that's not what I'm trying to get you to do, but it's just a simple, you're giving her the option to allow you in, and if you're having a hard time, that's a big deal. Permission is a huge deal.
Yeah. And the reason that we're giving all these cautionary ideas or caveats is because we don't know your situation.
Yeah.
You do, unless you're oblivious, which at times I've been oblivious because I was distracted or in survival mode. So like I say, that's the basic framework for you. And I look forward to hearing back how these tips, you can read, as you read along in his email, he's getting aha moments because he had us as a sounding board. We're a neutral party. We're on the outside. And his initial email, my email back a few times, then Jeannie gave her perspective, and those are things that truly were able to help him understand. And I asked him, do you know? And he told me. And then he came back and said, well, I got him out of order. I asked her, she took the love languages, and that helped. The love languages, to me, is really like a secret weapon, because it's not necessarily, you're not going to go and overwhelm her with a bunch of questions. You can look at that. And then you can look at it and it's like, well, what if her number one is acts of service? Then you can ask these questions I'm telling you, which is, okay, what does that look like for you? And that gives her the ability, the opportunity to express, how she feels about a situation. And then you can ask her, does that make you feel like a priority? I can't really think of someone that I've talked to throughout this or at any time where you feeling like a priority was a negative.
No.
Okay? So I believe that's probably the quickest way to get there if she's willing to participate. If not, you'll have to try some other things. Don't be the guy. Okay? Don't be the guy. Don't be that freaking guy that tries something once and gives up. Or tries something once and emails me and says, this doesn't work, this is bullcrap. However long you've been married, however long you've been in a relationship, let's say it's 10 years. It took 10 years to get here. One and done is not going to fix everything. It takes work. It takes dedication and commitment, consistency. Maybe you have some credibility that you need to rebuild. If you're a wife and things are troubled with your husband, maybe you have some credibility to rebuild. None of us are beyond reproach. You know what I'm saying? None of us are all the way in the innocence category. So take that for what you will. Ask the questions. You get an answer. What does that look like? You get an answer. You repeat what you hear, and it's either going to match or it's not. And from there, you can start to build those things that make him or her feel like a priority. If you feel like a priority, then you feel like you matter. And the thing is, once you run that play for a win, then you can go run it again. And there are different levels to this that will help enhance your relationship. It's always best to aim small, miss small. Does that sound fair?
I think so.
Okay, that is your game plan episode. And I would say playbook was wrapped up into one. It was kind of an
It's a
easy
twofer.
structure. Hey, it's a twofer. It was, so in my opinion, we're going to leave the game plan episode as a game plan playbook because we laid it out for you. It was just that simple. Not saying it's easy, but it was just that simple. I don't think you need any more. Now it's time to take some action. You know, start nice and easy. Don't go Quincy, which is overboard. That's not necessary. Then email us. Let us know how it goes. Jeannie, Jeanne, at mvsmpodcast.com. Or Quincy, Quincy, at mvsmpodcast.com. There you go. There are your emails. That's all you need. If you're one of those listeners that has my personal cell phone, text me. You don't have to email. Otherwise, y'all send emails. We will get back to you. We are rooting for you. We are your biggest fan, even though we don't know you yet. But for those of you listening and engaging and out there doing it, making marriage a better place, keep up the good work. It is worth it. It's hard work, but it's worth it. It's very rewarding. That's all we got. She's Jeannie. I'm Quincy. We're slightly exhausted. Jeannie's thinking about something.
No, I'm not.
She's not thinking about anything.
Sign off, you dummy. We're
Sign
done.
off, you dummy. This is Man versus Marriage.
The podcast. How good do you want your life to be?
You gotta live on purpose, for a purpose.
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible. This is Man vs. Marriage, the podcast.